Hi, everyone. Just a quick housekeeping things. I hope everyone can hear me. And if you can't hear me, there's some tabs at the side. There's the, I think it gives you the options of raising your hand and sending us a quick chat and things like that. So I think I checked my audio and yeah, I hope that works. So thank you for logging in to this webinar. Titled Surviving the Holidays for Separated Persons, and it's really just tips and tricks for a conflict-free holiday. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about myself and our firm and what we do. I'm Angela Princeville, and our firm is called AAP Lawyers. We have a group of very passionate and fantastic lawyers that try to work to get people's family matters resolved. And really our mission is to make people's family lives better. Family obviously is the fabric of society as a whole. So if families are better, life is better, and maybe selfishly we're all better as a community. So with the holidays coming up, with the lawyers at the firm, we thought, what are some of the things that bother people during these times, and what strategies can we share based on our experiences that can help people have a more enjoyable holiday season. Our motto, or which is part of our mission here, is to redefine the practice of law, and part of that is to take a more proactive approach. Now, for most of the time, our jobs usually is more reactive. There's a situation and we're stepping in as lawyers to try to resolve it. But we thought, okay, as part of trying to redefine how lawyers practice, what if we can help people, avoid conflict even before it starts? How can we, rather than waiting on the back end and dealing with conflict that arises, during the holidays, what can we do to help people avoid these conflicts? We all know it's the holidays, it's a great time. For separated persons, probably not so much at this time. I've been told it gets a lot better with time. Be patient if it's not going so great. But yeah, we're going to touch on different strategies that would hopefully help make the holiday season more enjoyable. So the way I've structured this presentation is we will start off with discussing some of the main areas that the lawyers here have identified that are sort of recurring themes. Obviously, everyone's situation is different, and you may, so if you have any questions or something specific, again, as I said, I think you're at the right-hand side of your screen, there should be a section where you can leave us questions. So I would go over, the recurring themes that we've come up with and just give you some of our insights, things that we've experienced and our clients have told us have been successful with, for them. And then at the end, we'll go over some questions and answers. So please leave your questions, in the questions section, and I'll try to get to them. We already received a few questions by email, so I will leave a lot of time to go over questions at the end of the presentation, which the presentation should be pretty quick, by the way. And then, I want to really dig deep into the questions that we received. So for separated persons, we looked at it and we divided, and we just kind of separated it into clients that have children and those without. And the one theme that we find with both set of clients is just really, how do you manage alone time? For newly separated persons, it's very difficult. It's the first time that you might be having Christmas by yourself without your partner, and even when you're with the children, it's just you without your partner. And depending on what the access schedule is for people with kids, it might mean time without the kids over the holidays. So it's a really difficult time, and what works best for you in terms of distressing. So it's really a time to sort of dig deeper and just engage and practice mindfulness is just the simple way we can put this. what can you do, and come up with things that you could do. So we try to think, what can people do over the holidays? For some people, it may just come down to taking a walk. And I know saying that on a very cold day like this just seems crazy, but sometimes it's just refreshing. Are there, is it the one day you can lie down and just watch all those inappropriate shows that you're not able to watch when you have the children? Or if you didn't share the same taste with your partner, is this a time that you could do that? But you really need to dig deep and find, things that you can do during this alone time that you probably would otherwise not be able to do. If you don't have a plan, it makes the holiday season seem sad. It makes it drag out longer and things like that. So the alone time is just something that I know from a legal perspective, there's really nothing, that it's not something we can help you with, but we acknowledge that and we realize that it's just, one of the struggles that people deal with at this time of the year. And we just, want to say, you want to be very intentional, you want to be mindful, you want to plan and, prepare strategies and activities, I guess, for the times that you would be alone over the holidays. So the big thing for clients with children, it comes down to access. How do we deal with holiday access during this time? For some reason, Christmas is just, the other side kind of goes crazy during Christmas. There's just something about Christmas that seems to make people forget that there might have been a schedule. But I think I'm jumping a bit ahead of myself. I would say, for starters, if you have a separation agreement or court order, this is the time to get it out. Don't assume you remember. I have honestly had people get confused. They forgot that they had, Christmas the year before, and maybe they're not supposed to have it this year. Maybe they get Boxing Day this year, and they get very confused about that. And it's usually a big blow up before everyone finds out that it was just a misunderstanding. Given that it's the holiday, it's Christmas, it's very special to a lot of people, there's really zero room for error. So if you have an agreement, please bring it out and take a look. You want to review the order. What does it say about pick up and drop off times? A lot of times people's schedules would have the children spend time with one parent, maybe in the day, and then in the afternoons or evenings with the other, or Christmas Eve. Whatever you've structured in a separation agreement or a court order, then you have to make sure that you respect that. If there was ever any issues that you had regarding the order, this is not the time to change it. This is the time to comply, not make changes. Now, if you don't have a separation agreement in place, then planning is crucial. You have to have that conversation with your partner. And if you have lawyers already, or if we're representing you, that's something we're already doing. We're working very hard. It's a very busy period, because for people that don't have holiday access already set up, we make sure that we have to do it. This week it's crunch time. We have to do something because we want to make sure the kids have a great holiday. I mean, my associate Anissa Datu said something earlier that I thought it was brilliant. She says kids would remember a bad Christmas, and she wants to make sure that we're not the cause, and we want to make sure that our clients are not the cause of the kids having a bad Christmas. So planning is imperative. For some, if you're amicable, we have separated clients that are able to reside in the home together, or at least can keep up civil conversations. If that's your situation, then maybe you can celebrate Christmas together. The children like it, but it's not for everyone. And don't feel compelled to do something just because you think it's the norm. Your situation is unique. I think this is where it comes back to mindfulness. What can you handle? If you can't get through a together Christmas celebration civilly, then, or you can't get through it without you having to suffer, a mental breakdown in the process, then don't do it. But if you think you can, and you can, spend a few hours together, if it's opening gifts, if it's, just trying to maintain some sort of tradition that you had in the past, then absolutely do Christmas together, and don't be concerned about how it may affect your custody case later. It doesn't matter. We get that this is a special time of the year. Even if a person would ordinarily be abusive, if a person is someone you ordinarily would not spend time with, don't think that spending this time at Christmas, if you're able, again, only if you're able to pull it off, don't think that it would affect your case subsequently. Give me a second here. Okay. If you're not able to have a together celebration, then obviously each parent, I'm expecting in typical cases, each parent would be celebrating with, you know, the children separately. And again, planning is key. Where's the location going to be? If it's, you know, if it's in your home, or and the parties are still sharing a home, well, do you need to leave maybe for a few hours so they have that alone time with one parent to sort of have their thing going? Would the parent, if a parent is going to be taking the child away, have you planned for that? And if you're that parent that's just going to be exercising access for the first time to your child during this holiday, then you want to plan, you know, what kind of, think about just simple things. What would make the kids happy when I pick them up? How far of a distance do you have to drive to have these celebrations? Can you incorporate maybe family? And just ultimately try to make it a happy time for the kids. It's okay. You know, it's great when both parents were there, but if that's not the reality, it is what it is. And so long as the children have a conflict-free environment where they're able to just relax, it's not a time to talk about dad. It's not a time to talk about long-term access plans. Just so long as you're able to give the kids a great time, then absolutely they will be, it will be a great Christmas for them, even though you're separate. There's also concerns at this time about people spending Christmas with extended family. You know, for people with kids, you have children that are part of, you know, either the paternal or maternal sides of the family, and there's always that concern as to what to do if you're invited over. Well, it's very simple. If the relationship is still great and you're comfortable being in that environment, by all means, you should attend. If for any reason the other, you know, you're uncomfortable being with your partner and they're going to be there, or your ex, I should say, and they're going to be at that event, then you may want to think about, you know, alternate days. So if we've seen sometimes where families would celebrate, you know, Christmas with the children and you know, maybe the wife on one day and Christmas with the kids and the husband on a separate day. Whatever works for your family works for your family. That's really what matters. Even for people without children, there's always that concern of, am I overreaching? Should I really still be a part of this family? If you've been invited, then obviously they want you to still be a part of it. You separated from your ex, and that really has nothing to do with the family, and that's probably why, you know, you were invited. But you want to think safety in situations like this. You know, can you have a safe space to enjoy the holidays if your ex is there, and if that's the answer to that is no, then you want to make sure that whatever invitations you're accepting, that for sure your ex is not going to be there. And when I say safety, I don't mean extremely dangerous situations, because, you know, sometimes it's just little things. If it's going to be an argument that makes everyone feel uncomfortable, then you want to avoid that and maybe decline that invitation. Or it could be just an argument that goes, you know, out of hand. The holidays, or a lot of people drink during the holidays. We drink a lot. We're celebrating. It's exciting times. And if you're in a space with your ex and an argument starts and there's been a few drinks, you could see how quickly that situation could escalate. So that's why we mentioned the safety concerns. So not only look at the past and past abuse and things like that, but just look at how am I setting up this meeting, or this being in this space with this person, how am I setting this up so that we avoid conflict? And that's really what this is all about, trying to avoid conflict during the holidays. We noticed an area as well that creates conflict at the time, or even later, the potential area of conflict after the fact, is the area of gift giving, and especially with children. So you have, in this scenario, you have one party give a very expensive gift to the child, or in some cases even an inappropriate gift. And that's very troubling in some cases. In the case of an expensive gift, I can appreciate how upsetting it is for another party where a child gets a really expensive gift, and maybe there's child support or spousal support payments outstanding. You have to understand that the gift is for the child, and as upsetting as that is, and as much as it might be appropriate to bring that to the attention of the court at a future date, you want to avoid conflict. It's okay. Let the child be comfortable enough to enjoy the gift that they've received. And then obviously talk to your lawyers, or you go back later and you can raise that to the court's attention. And this person, for example, is claiming hardship, but then is giving these expensive gifts and not meeting up with their support obligations. Now, what about inappropriate gifts? People parent differently, and you might have concerns about a gift that your ex may have given to a child. Well, step one is try to communicate your concerns with your ex as respectfully as you can, and just let them know what you think about the gift, and why you think it's inappropriate, because chances are they may not be viewing it from that perspective. And if this is done respectfully, it may just be able to end there. It may, if it's not too bad, the child may still be able to enjoy the gift. Or if it's really something that's just completely crosses the line, then arrangements can be made to, jointly find a way to take that gift away from the child and make it up to the child in some other way. But the first step is always to try to communicate and talk things out. But if that doesn't work, or, if that's not even an option in your situation, then it's something, again, do not create any conflict during that time. Let it pass. If your matter, for example, is already in litigation, that's something that could be brought to the courts. That's something, that goes to a person's parenting ability. It goes to their ability to, jointly parent the child with you. But in the spirit of the holidays, we would highly advise that where communications doesn't work, don't escalate things, just let it go, and it could be dealt with either through lawyer communications, or if it's something that's in the courts already, by bringing it to the court's attention. Now, something that's been very successful in the past for some people is really trying to coordinate between yourselves the gift that you're going to give to the child. So some people would make, the children write lists, and they would exchange it between themselves, so they're not duplicating gifts, and that making sure that, sometimes Christmas could be a time where you're getting the children things that they probably need, and you haven't gotten to get in for them during the year. And if you're able to coordinate gifts, then it's a better outcome for everyone, and the child gets what they need. It's gifts, they're happy about it, and there's no conflict between either getting gifts that are not appropriate, or just duplicating gifts where it isn't necessary. Okay. Compromise is always key. There's no one's ever going to get everything that they want. Or as I mentioned earlier, your situation is different. Most people's situation are different, and but you just have to view. But for everybody, compromise is something that would work for everyone. You're going to have a lot of alone time, chances are. If you're the parent that would be spending majority of the time with the children over the holidays, then that's great. That's fantastic. And if there's a way, if it's the right thing to do for your situation, to compromise and maybe give the other side more time, and if it's something the children would be happy with, then absolutely that's something that we would encourage you to do. So I think off the top of my head, those are sort of the areas we were able to think about conflicts. But the biggest areas for us is usually just making sure people follow the order. And when it comes to children, and not trying to pull any fast moves. If that happens and someone's not following the access schedule or the holiday schedule as agreed to, if there's a question of what do you do? And we know we want to avoid conflict as much as possible, but sometimes it is what it is, and these things present themselves during the holidays. The courts at this point are open until, I believe it's on Friday the 20th, actually till the 24th as well. I believe the courts are open, so there's always a chance to bring maybe bring an urgent motion and things like that. But that's really not the subject of this webinar, because we're hoping a lot of our clients are able to enjoy the holidays without having conflict. If you look at your separation agreement, or well, likely your court order, in some cases it may allow for police enforcement. So that's something you may want to have handy if the child's not returned at the right times and things like that. Even if you have a separation agreement and there is no mention of police enforcement, which really can't be done in a separation agreement anyways, you could still ask for help from the police in trying to enforce the access times that was agreed to in the separation agreement. But as I had mentioned, compromise, you want to be very careful if it's, a 1 hour delay, even a 2 hour delay. And I recognize that I'm saying this knowing that could be very upsetting when you're separated and you've gone through this whole trouble of creating an access schedule and planning everything around it. I get that it's very upsetting to have someone just, do a late drop-off, for example, and it could mess up a lot of plans. But you want to think about how you raise that concern at that point in time. If it might just be well enough to just let it go just at that time, and just so that the child is not witnessing his or her parents engage in an argument over why did you drop off late and you always do this and things like that. So you might just want to let it go just at that time, or make a note of it. It's the sort of thing, again, that if your agreement is still being negotiated, it's the sort of thing that counsel would take up with the other side's lawyer. If your case is in court, it's something that the courts would frown upon, and the courts would look really favorably on you that you were able to put the best interest of the child front and center, and you let it go just so that that child can enjoy the holiday conflict-free. If now for those without children, there's obviously different things that can come up, like some partners are notorious for trying to get you to engage and snide comments and things like that, especially if you're in the same house. Again, it's same thing. You could bring it to the lawyer's attention or the court's attention at a later date. Do not engage. You don't want to spend your holidays at the station making statements and having the police called over to your home and things like that. It really isn't worth it, and there's not a lot that can happen, and especially during the days that the courts are closed, like Christmas and Boxing Day. So if it's something that's really serious, of course, you want to call the police right away. Let us know as soon as possible after, so that we can do our part using the court system to make sure that the other person is held accountable. And so now I'm going to see if we have any questions here, because those are all my brainstorm tips and tricks to help you have a conflict-free holiday. And now I'll check out some questions. So I see someone's asking, how do people usually split holidays? I don't know if there's one right way. More often than not, we try to give as much time during the holidays with both parents. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So there's no usual way. It really depends. So just as there's many different ways that we can structure an access schedule, the parenting time that each party has sometimes could play a part in how holiday access is scheduled. For some people, holiday access is split 50-50. We've had situations where the children spend Christmas morning with one parent and spends the later part of Christmas Day with another parent. For some families, the tradition is to have their celebration on the 24th, and maybe the other side's families has the tradition is to celebrate Christmas on the 25th. And so in those cases, we're able to create sort of a compromise where, you know, one party always gets December 24th so that they could celebrate Christmas with their side of the family, while the other side, you know, gets the 25th and can do that as well. So that's one usual way. Another way is, you know, if that's not possible, then you could just alternate it every year, where one person has Christmas one year and the other person in the following year. Boxing Day is part of the holiday, so that's something that we factor in. Again, it depends on sort of your plans. Some people would lump Boxing Day and Christmas Day together as sort of the, you know, and if one person has the child from the 24th into the 25th, the other person has the, you know, the child from the 25th into the 26th and things like that. So there's so many ways we're able to structure it, but to be able to do that, we need to know, we like to know what your family traditions are, any personal preferences, and we try and yeah, and then we try to work with those as much as possible to create an agreement that's workable for both parties. And if the preferences are the same, and it's just the easiest way is just to really do alternate the holidays and things like that. But we typically don't like the children just going through the holidays, the few days of Christmas, particularly without seeing one parent. So if there's no order preventing a parent from seeing the child, then we'll generally try to structure one visit at least within those few days around Christmas, so that, you know, the children can get to have Christmas celebrations with both parents. Okay, so a question we had here from by email earlier was, does child support change because of shared holidays? The answer to that is no, for the most part. So I think, broadly speaking, and if we're speaking about holidays in terms of this holiday, the Christmas holiday season, then the fact that you split Christmas alone is not likely to have any impact on your child support obligations. In the past, people wonder if they can get a bit of a break in child support payments because, you know, the season, the gifts that they have to buy for the children and family and things like that. Well, that doesn't factor into child support. You know, I guess you're expected to sort of budget within whatever you have left after you've met your child support obligation. So the sharing the holidays with your spouse is not likely to change your child support obligations. However, if this question is regarding holidays as a whole, and in which case we mean the holidays in the year. So this is, you know, if it's school-age children, then you're talking summers and all of that. If that's what that means, if child support does change with shared holidays, then absolutely it could. We would have to know if it's a definite yes or no in your situation. We would have to look at your access schedule and see how many days in a year do you have them, do you have the children totally? And what we're trying to do is meet that 40% threshold. And so in which case it may have an impact on your child support payments. The reason being, for some people, if you just look at their regular access schedule, they don't meet that 40% threshold. However, if you include all the times that they have the children during the holidays, then they could cross that threshold. So in that case, when you're looking at holidays in the year overall and it having an impact on child support payments, yes, it can, but just the Christmas holiday alone is not likely to have an impact on your ongoing child support payments. So we also had an emailed question earlier of what do you do if a person fails to follow, you know, the schedule? And I think I had touched on this a little bit earlier, and, you know, our advice to avoid a conflict-free holiday is to really try to limit police involvement as much as you can. If it's not a situation that's going to lead to imminent danger, or if it's not a situation that can just be absolutely avoided by involving the police, we really say to try to avoid that as much as you can. Bring it to the attention of your lawyers after the fact, and, you know, we will do what we need to do with that. If your case is in litigation, then this is something that would definitely be brought to the court's attention, and they would generally, you know, and if it's a valid concern, of course, then I'm sure the courts will take whatever measures necessary to avoid it happening in the future, or at the very least would make sure that they raise the issue with the person who was having these violations and creating these issues. And the last question I have is, what if a parent wants to travel with a child at Christmas? Well, the answer is almost as always with almost everything in family law, it depends. For one, first place to always start is look at your separation agreement and look at the court order. Do they say anything about holiday travel? With proper planning, this is something that should have been discussed way before now, and, you know, but let's say it's just, you know, a trip a couple of hours away, and now this is just a reason last minute. How do you deal with that and avoid conflict? So if I'm going to answer this question from the perspective of the person who wants to travel with the child, and the perspective of the person who is staying back and who is going to be missing the children. So as the person wanting to travel with the child at Christmas, first, look at the starting point is looking at your agreement or court order. Does it allow you to do this? And if it does, how many days notice are you required to give? If it's silent on this issue, or for some reason you weren't able to meet the requirements, then again, the first step, always try to communicate with the other side or through their lawyers and let them know this is something that you want to do. Now you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about how can I help make this offer, how can I make this offer have less of an impact on the other side, because you're taking the child away for Christmas, and it might be a situation where the child really wants to go, they're excited, but you have to remember the holidays is a very difficult time for separated persons, because if this child leaves, chances are, you know, they're going to be alone, or they're going to miss their loved one. So make an offer. And a simple example would be, you know, can you go maybe before Christmas so that you're back on time and the other side still gets to have their, you know, Christmas day or whatever day, celebration day is important to the other side. If that's not, you know, if that's not possible for you, well, maybe suggest to the other side, maybe they can celebrate Christmas early on, on the 23rd, on the weekend, and that allows you the time to go away with the child. Offer extended time when you get back, if that's something that would be attractive to the other side. Are they, there's going to be concerns about making up time, but maybe even offer additional time because you're taking away a time that really matters a lot to most people. Now, if you're the person that's not traveling and you've received this request for the other parent to travel with the child, well, what do? There's no hard and fast rule. There's no automatic answers. If you've looked at your agreement and you've looked at the order and it looks like they're in breach of it, then it is what it is. But there's nothing that prevents you from compromising if you think it's appropriate in the situation, right? So you can always, maybe they were supposed to give you 14 days notice and now you're getting, a 3-day notice as an example. It's up to you. If you think it's appropriate in the circumstances, absolutely, there's nothing, your agreement is just sort of a roadmap for you to use. It doesn't mean you have to just follow every single letter of it. If it's possible for you to celebrate early with the child or get extended time with the child when they come back, then there's nothing that prevents you from, allowing this to happen, except, again, you have valid reasons. There's things to consider in these situations, obviously. How would your child, for example, feel having to spend Christmas without you? That's something that you have to factor in when making your decision. Is your child excited about going with the other parent? Are they comfortable with celebrating Christmas with you at another time? And if all of these check off and it's something that you can do, of course you could compromise and do that and hope that your goodwill gets reciprocated. But if it doesn't check off, if it's not a good idea, then I guess it's a no-brainer, and you have to say no to that. But for the person who's receiving a no to this kind of request, in the spirit of making sure that the holidays go great, safe, and conflict-free for anyone, that's not the time to create drama. That's not the time to get into arguments. It is what it is. If it's a valid request that makes sense and you believe the other side was being unreasonable in refusing, as I said, that's something that could always be dealt with after the fact, and creating a conflict at that particular time doesn't help anyone. There is no third-party judge or counsel in between to sort of help smooth things along. So anyway, that's it for me for now. I don't see any more questions, and I hope you all have a safe holiday, and I will talk to you again next month.